face made of tools gets into a chaotic altercation with a face made of food, a couple made from clay embrace lovingly, only to eventually tear each other apart, and two clay busts assist each other in this strange giving and taking collaboration, only to gradually give each other mixed signals. This is Jan Švankmajer's Dimensions of Dialogue, a short film which brilliantly captured Švankmajer's distinctive stop-motion artistic vision, a film which, across its 3 chapters, eternal conversation, the seemingly never-ending sense of conflicting dialogue, passionate discourse, love and hate between 2 figures which comes from a passionate source, and exhaustive discussion, a collaborative relationship devolving into tiring social exercises, manages to be both visually surreal and surprisingly relatable. Jan Švankmajer's influential filmmaking approach has inspired generations of filmmakers, from Terry Gilliam to Henry Selick. A common component of Švankmajer's filmmaking style is the use of stop motion, often utilising clay with household items and food, crafting an uncomfortable, uncanny, and peculiar aesthetic that is distinctly Švankmajer's own. For example, the clay busts within Exhaustive Discussion, the 3rd chapter of Dimensions of Dialogue, spurt household items from their mouths, which the opposing clay bust must react to, while also having organic tongues, likely the tongues of cows. While watching Jan Švankmajer's filmmaking, there is a great sense of the unpredictable. Things are never quite as simple as they seem on the surface, as characters may morph together to indicate a kiss, figures tear, stain, and break through other characters, before returning to their previous form, made from their broken materials, and clear signs of cracking, breakages, and imperfections are embraced within the sculptures to indicate a physical sense of exhaustion. This is simply one way in which Švankmajer's exploration of the surreal manages to be surprisingly relatable. Who doesn't know that feeling of deflation from tiring social encounters? Each chapter of Dimensions of Dialogue details the variety and spectrum of conversation that is believably human. Chapter 1, Passionate Discourse, seems to depict a series of vicious arguments that leaves its participants literally chewed out, one side becoming the victor, eventually creating numerous copies of the same clay-like figure as if to indicate the impact of persuasion. The 2nd chapter, Passionate Discourse, demonstrates the physicality and sensuality of a young couple, their bodies blurring into a mound of thumb presses, contrasted from moments of recognisable body parts, which eventually deteriorates into violent argument due to the birth of a clay offspring, as if the birth of an unwanted child becomes the centre of a couple's strife. And the 3rd chapter, Exhaustive Discussion, reflects the helpful nature of a friendly conversation that progresses into social fatigue, as 2 characters that were once on the same wavelength become conflicting in their attempts to aid the other. While the presentation is often absurd, the visual expression of the myriad of conversations via these memorable images is often visceral and evocative of our own social experiences. People debate, couples argue, friends can fall out and clash. It's with a great wealth of imagination that Švankmajer manages to encapsulate the conflicts of conversation in a wildly unpredictable manner that is also equally reminiscent of so many of our own social interactions. In conclusion, Jan Švankmajer's Dimensions of Dialogue is a brilliant introduction to the stop-motion animation vision that makes Švankmajer such an influential figure within animation. Simultaneously surreal and relatable, Švankmajer's stylistic approach remains darkly comic, humorous in how believable these absurd scenes are. Many of us have experienced social situations like this, yet also tragic in how uncomfortable these moments can become. Dimensions of Dialogue is an essential short film for anybody curious to broaden their interests in animation. A special thank you to my incredible tier Patreon supporter Gil, and my super tier Patreon supporters Konstantin Bombelli and at Layla Lou 1.